Hello. Check 1, 2. Everybody hear anything? You check that mic?
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
Oh, I hope everybody can hear everything. We are live with the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast right now. I know that was not a formal intro, but guess what? Nothing has been formal tonight. So, I mean, you know, what can we do? I'm your phenomenal host, Chris Belcher, and this is the live recap of night number 1 of WrestleMania. If you are watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, any of those places, thank you so much for doing that. I got to get used to looking at the camera, not the computer. That is a problem for me. Sorry, y'all. But if you're listening on traditional audio on our podcast feed, thank you for doing that as well. You can follow us on our other social media sites. We are at PBW Podcast. Buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/PBW Podcast. And if you forget all of those things, there's a little ticker down here at the bottom to remind you of all of those places. I am joined by the third man, technically the third man, the professor, Mr. Batkiewicz. Wait for it. Batkiewicz. Jason Batkiewicz is with me once again. What's up, man?
What's up? Happy to be back.
Happy to be back for one more round.
Oh, yeah.
As Stone Cold likes to say.
Exactly.
And joining us is a longtime guest and longtime supporter of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Mr. Andy York is in the house. What is up, man?
Not much, man. Glad to be here and talk about some wrestling.
Talking about some wrestling, man. Listen, WrestleMania night number 1 definitely didn't come off clean. We had our hiccups, of course, as we knew we would, as the first event WWE has produced in a year in front of live fans, and it started with a rain delay. I mean, we were watching the radar all day, and we're like, okay, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And, you know, they started the kickoff without a hitch, and that was fine. And then here comes the rain. We were talking about it right before we started recording. It really did throw some things off, you know?
Absolutely. My favorite part of that whole rain delay was seeing Michael Cole and Samoa Joe in ponchos standing up in the rain. Oh, man, that's a WrestleMania moment.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was so good. What about you, Andy? What was your thoughts on the rain delay?
It obviously threw off some things, but I think
Sure.
the best thing that it did was show that how good people are when they're not scripted with promos.
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of opened some eyes of like, hey, let's just let them go out on a mic, give them some points to hit maybe, but, you know, let them kind of do their own thing.
Right.
I think that really helped out a lot because it made them come off more realistic, and it made it come off more, you know, I think they were able to connect better with us.
Yeah. I mean, they went to some promos. It was pretty interesting way to kill time. I don't know how much they had planned for that. We talked about WWE had to have had knowledge that this could possibly come, you know. So they clearly had a plan. They had a little confrontation with Bobby and Drew back there. All in all, after the rain delay and all that other kind of craziness, we got to the opening match. Before that, though, obviously a really cool moment of Vince McMahon welcoming back the WWE Universe.
Before the rain delay.
That's right. That was before the rain delay. That's right. I forgot about that. So I thought that was really cool. You know, that he did that. That was a really cool moment.
It popped me. I mean, I was just excited to see Vince out there with all of his roster behind him. Everybody smiling.
Yeah.
You know, the song's about to play to kick off WrestleMania. It was just a beautiful moment.
It was very cool.
It felt kind of like, obviously, two different situations, but it kind of felt like the same energy of the SmackDown after 9/11, like the same kind of promo that Vince came out and cut.
I love that.
It was kind of, I think that promo of Vince is going to go down as like an iconic moment now for WWE from now on, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to think post-pandemic. Well, I mean, not post-pandemic, but we're on the back half of the pandemic.
Right,
hopefully.
Depending on what state you're in, I guess.
Depending on if you're in California or you're in Texas, because that's clearly where we're measuring here. Texas Rangers can speak to that. Anyway, but we got that. You're right. Absolutely. It's going to be an iconic moment for Vince McMahon and for this company for many years to come. Then we get the rain delay, and then we get the World Heavyweight Championship match, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. We have all commented on this. Like, this match was kind of slow.
Yeah,
it
never really felt like it kind of picked up. Maybe at the end it did a little bit, but they felt I thought they would have better chemistry than what they kind of
Yeah.
did, and I think the rain delay definitely threw them off.
Yeah.
Some, but I don't know. I think the match went like we were talking about this before we went on. Like the match was definitely too long. And it didn't really mesh well throughout the match. It
was a little
like,
clunky.
Yeah, it
That's
seemed like
what
it,
I would
especially like
describe
the
it as.
MVP distraction spot. You didn't really. I think that was more camera work than anything, but you didn't really
100%.
see anything.
Yep, that was definitely camera work for sure. Yeah. A match probably what, Jason, 10 minutes too long, maybe something like that.
Yeah, easily.
You think?
Easily.
These guys didn't need 20 minutes, and they went 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the kind of guys. It would be almost as bad as putting Goldberg in a 20-minute match.
Yeah, maybe. I think
I'm not saying that these guys aren't skilled, because
Right.
clearly they are, but it just, to get the crowd going, they just had a rain delay. You know, they got excited, then they had the rain delay. You got to bring them back in, and this really slow paced match between two big heavyweights, they needed to call an audible, and they didn't.
I think what happened was because they're first instead of last, they've tried to do too much and added way too much into their match to where it kind of fell apart.
Yep.
Towards the end.
Yep.
And then it built up, but the finish kind of came out of nowhere.
Right. Absolutely. So we, again, if you are just now joining us, I know we went live and we started off. This is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We are live after WrestleMania night number 1. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media sites. You can find that handle right down here on this little ticker. We are live right now on Facebook, Twitter, and on Twitch and on YouTube. Looking at some comments coming through, some New World Nerds comments, checking us out on YouTube. Thank you guys for that. They said you can't have a vicious rival and have them lock up to start the match. That's such a good point,
Yeah,
Andy.
he's actually a good friend of mine.
Oh,
The
sweet.
guy that's on there. Yeah, we
Shout
he
out.
actually
Yeah.
comes on my YouTube channel when we talk about wrestling.
Oh,
So,
cool.
Yeah, so he's not always the smartest with wrestling, but we'll let him pass. No, but I agree. Like, this should have been a match where you hit your 5 big moves each, and then you go home.
Yeah,
Yep.
five
That's all it should have been.
5 moves of doom. That's it.
Hit your greatest hits.
That's
and
it.
Get out.
Especially, again, like I said, the opening match of this post-pandemic WrestleMania. Everybody is firing on all cylinders. Hit your big moves and get out, because that match drug on. And then you had the women's tag team turmoil. And we all feel the same about that. And that match was clearly, again, 20 minutes too long, and it lasted about 20 minutes. Natty and Tamina coming out. Wait a minute, but before we move to that was a very smooth transition, but we all kind of thought that they would go with Drew on this, because you want that big moment, but Lashley retained the championship.
Yeah, that really shocked me, because I thought they were going for the Drew finally gets his big feel good moment in front of a live crowd that he missed out on last year, and so for him to kind of put Lashley over, I think it's a smart move, but it was very shocking that that's how they went.
Well, that was a prop bet on DraftKings, right?
See, I told you
it?
before we even
I have
started.
a question.
I don't know. That was just me taking a shot.
I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves with this question, but
We are.
where are both of these guys going after Mania?
Oh man.
Because I think this is the $1 million question.
I think for Drew is definitely Corbin
Yep, I do too.
for the next year and a half, probably. It's going to feel like.
As long as we don't get a dog food battle or whatever, I'm
get
good.
a bun. I think Drew Lashley. I don't really know if there's anybody on Raw that is big enough to reach him. You know what I mean?
I think that he'll probably give a shot at the title to Shelton Benjamin to kind of solidify this Hurt
That's a
Business
good-
breakup.
They could do like a triple
like
threat
that.
between
Such
the
a-
three of them.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's immediate, but I don't, as far as long term, I really don't know.
I think the easiest choice is Lesnar, but I don't know if we don't know the status on Lesnar or anything.
What if
Okay. Go ahead.
towards SummerSlam, end of summer, Damian Priest?
Ooh,
I
I
like
do
that.
like that a
That would be
lot.
nice.
That's really
Yeah.
good. What about The Fiend?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could.
And the reason I say that is because it would be way easier to take the title off of Lashley for the Fiend than it would be Drew.
Yeah, but I don't know if they need. I don't know if the Fiend is a character that needs the championship
Well,
or should have the championship.
That's very true. But the only reason that I mentioned the Fiend is I don't know who's left.
Randy, maybe, but
AJ, but he's
AJ,
tag champ
yeah.
now. Spoiler alert.
Almost, maybe.
Almost and Lashley could be really good.
Yeah,
That'd be a good SummerSlam
Strowman.
match.
I mean, you've still got Braun.
Oh,
still lying
Lashley
around
and
him.
Strowman.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I think
That's good.
you'll probably
Yeah.
get Lashley Strowman for the next few months, leading probably into Lashley Lesnar into SummerSlam or later on down the line, at least at some point.
Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened. If you guys are there, screw it, give it to Randy. Vince ever cares. That's good.
That's true though.
That's so
Randy's
good.
His fail safe.
I'll say that's it. The break glass.
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah. So women's tag team turmoil. Natty and Tamina going on to tomorrow night. Do you think they did that just as a safe move, or
It was a gift to The Rock to come back to kind of have his family effect.
Probably.
You're probably
In a
right.
big
I guess
match
so.
or
But if
something.
Natty's in it, it means it's probably a gift for Bret Hart too. So
Bret
we're
and
gonna
The
get
Rock.
versus Bret Hart.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we're gonna
Yeah.
get Rock and Brett.
Epic match, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right, so let's move on from that debacle to the best match of the night. Arguably, I mean, we have the main event to talk about, but the best match of the night, Cesaro and Seth Rollins. We called it, man, earlier today. Jared and I called it on the WrestleMania preview earlier this week. Match of the night, and it delivered. Rollins and Cesaro, just absolutely incredible. And I think one of the best parts of the match, honestly, was the video package, the ad paid for by Seth Rollins, but not affiliated with Seth Rollins
That
at
was
all.
great.
Right.
At the beginning,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
great. That was
touch.
fantastic.
That was so good. That really set this up nicely. Really just adds another layer to his character, I think. So it
And
was
Rollins coming out to new music.
Rollins
That
coming out
was
to
a
the
Yeah.
music.
surprise.
That was
That was-
really cool.
His attire was nice. You
His
know, I
attire
think-
was very good.
I think he gets a lot of flack on social media because he tends to run his mouth a lot. But people when he talks on Twitter, people get mad, but then he always brings them back
Yep.
with his wrestling. And I think that was kind of here tonight of both the match was exactly what it should have been of both those guys doing their strength of, a high pace, fast match,
Yep.
lots of moves. I mean, you could call it a spot fest, but it wasn't really like a
It was
spot
tasteful.
fest. Yeah, it was exactly what it needed to be, and I
Right.
think it worked really, really well.
It was hitting the greatest hits in a storytelling way.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. They definitely told the story. Pulled out some totally different stuff. I mean, Rollins, you had the 360 kind of splash that he did or whatever. Then you had the going for the stomp and hitting the uppercut. That was really cool. But it was really awesome to see Cesaro win in his first singles match, especially with a guy that he has so much history with, like Seth Rollins.
Well, I thought that Cesaro kind of broke out more of a stiffer style of wrestling
Yeah.
tonight. Something I haven't noticed in a while.
Well, I think that had something to do with, when you're going in there with your friends, you're going to lay it in there and,
Mhm.
ask
Right.
for forgiveness later. So that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, and I think this because for not obvious reasons, but Vince has never really been high on Cesaro. He even said that on the Stone Cold podcast of
I forgot about
guys
that.
like Cesaro will never grab the brass ring or whatever.
Right.
Forgot about that.
But moments like this and like when he was with the bar and everything like that, Cesaro should be a main event level guy.
Yep.
Like I would be fine if Cesaro next year was in the Lashley spot this year or the Kofi spot a few years ago of the guy that was kind of a mid-carder coming up to be in the main event picture and winning a world title at WrestleMania next year.
Well, I mean, you got to think too, a part of that probably has something to do with the casual fan not caring a whole lot about Cesaro.
Right.
We talked about that as one of his issues earlier tonight during the match, is that he doesn't really have a character.
Right.
And that's what this business is based on.
Right.
So not having that really already puts him 3 steps behind.
Yeah.
And then you have to get him the right dancing partner to have the spotlight shown on him anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But the thing about him, I think, is like he can be in there with a Seth Rollins and have a killer match. He can also be in there with a Sheamus and have 7 matches where, at the beginning you think it's going to be boring, and by the 7th match you're enjoying all the matches that they've had. So he seems to be a guy that can get in the ring with, how they say, like he could wrestle a broom and put up a 5-star match. I think he is a guy that is right at that level. Maybe not fully to that extent, but I think he's like right at that level.
He just needs to be given the opportunity to do it. Absolutely. I mean, and Jason, the stuff that he's been doing with Daniel Bryan on SmackDown 2 recently has just been absolutely incredible. I know you've always been a big mark for Cesaro as well. But this was really cool to not only, again, I can't stress this enough, for him to have his first singles match at a WrestleMania and to steal the show. I mean, the biggest match and best match of the night.
Yeah, very happy for him. And I wonder if now he'll kind of get the character behind him.
Maybe. We hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Again, if you guys are just now joining us, just now finding us, this is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We are talking all about night 1 of WrestleMania. I'm your host, Chris Belcher. This is Jason Batkiewicz and Andy York. We are hanging out for the next little bit, going down the WrestleMania card and talking about all things WrestleMania night number 1. Let's move to the Raw Tag Team Championship. And my boy right here, the phenomenal AJ Styles becoming a WWE Grand Slam champion. And as Andy pointed out, the first to be a Grand Slam champion in both WWE and in TNA. I mean, the match was what it needed to be. AJ got in there, took the majority of the punishment, almost got in there. He did a couple of big spots, and that was that. But the big spot of the night, Jason, is that you wanted this to be their finisher. AJ did the phenomenal forearm off of almost his shoulders.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
That needs to be their new finisher.
For
They
sure.
do that every night.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be a killer finisher. I mean, we saw, kind of going back, we saw 2 killer, if that is their finisher. The Riot Squad's tag team finisher.
Yeah, we
brutal.
totally glossed that over,
Yeah.
But man, the way that they land that,
Yeah, it hurts.
that hurts.
It hurts. And so but I think you're right of like, AJ finally becoming a grand champion and everything. But the match was definitely to get almost over. And I think it did that. I think it kind of showed that he is a big guy with not a lot of offense, but he doesn't need a lot of offense.
No.
It's definitely like old school big guy giant that works perfectly.
Like the Giant in WCW in 1995. All he had to do was get in there, grab you by the throat, chop you a couple times, choke slam, and that was it. Because nobody had seen a guy that big ever. And we were talking about this, how wrestling inflates height and deflates weight and all this other stuff.
True.
Almost is a legit 7-foot dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legit guy.
Absolutely.
He can move. He's coordinated for being that tall.
Sure he is.
Because sometimes you have that issue, like Khali. You know what I mean? But I mean, I know he played basketball, college basketball,
Right.
But still,
yeah,
it's different when you're actually
to be that tall and be that agile is not normally seen. I kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like when Strowman went away from the Wyatt family and went on when he did the squash matches and everything, he kind of got to see his power and speed a little bit better than before, and I think that works well.
Yeah, absolutely. Got some people tuning in on Facebook, got some people tuning in on Twitch and on YouTube. Again, thank you guys for that. Shoot us some comments. We will read them as we go here. But the crowd was really behind almost
Yep.
when he finally got in the ring. It's like they built that anticipation perfectly. Almost got in the ring and he did his thing. And we talked about Mandy Rose falling earlier. AJ almost fell on his entrance too.
Almost was like, "Are you all right?" And kind of gave him crap for falling.
And
Yeah.
AJ's like, "What the heck? Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good." It was really funny. So yeah, man. AJ's a Grand Slam champion. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. I'm definitely thrilled with that. Now, how long they keep the tag titles, I don't know. We're probably going to see a rematch tomorrow. Monday night on Raw. Just get ready for that.
Or a singles match between those two down the line.
That's
Omos
true.
and AJ.
Oh,
that would be nice.
I mean, I mentioned it while we were watching it. This is modern day Shawn Michaels and Diesel, and
Yep.
that's exactly what happened there. So, I mean, that's basic wrestling storytelling. You get the big guy and the small guy.
To steal a catchphrase, who better
Who better?
than AJ Styles to put someone over like that?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the best. We talked about that. He's phenomenal. Speaking of Braun Strowman, you mentioned a minute ago. Oh, look at this. Look at this guy. Mandy and Dana had the hottest tag, and
They did.
when they slapped
They
her on the
did.
butt.
They
that-
did. They did. They did.
It was a hard,
She hit her with
hard
some force,
tag,
too,
yeah.
man.
She did. That was funny.
little
Oh,
force behind that,
good.
yeah.
That's funny. That's hilarious. So you mentioned Braun Strowman. The cage match was Shane McMahon. This match, honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
We all kind of was like, oh my gosh, another Shane McMahon match, which some of Shane's matches I've been able to tolerate. Some of them, not so much. Tonight wasn't too bad. I don't know if it's because Braun Strowman ripped the cage and pulled Shane through
That
or
was
whatever.
I'd never seen that before, and that was
insane.
that put it on the match or on the map for awesome spots
Right.
of cage matches.
And
Yeah.
you knew that Shane was going to take a bump.
Yeah.
Strowman threw him from the top.
Yeah.
He did the coast to coast. We all thought he was going to do coast to coast from the top.
Yeah.
Or you mentioned, I think it was you that mentioned, the shooting star press.
Yeah. That would have been cool if he did the shooting star press. At one point, though, I think we all three thought that Strowman was going to go for the power slam off the top of the
they
cage.
should have.
And I think they should have.
But it would
It's
have still
Wrestle-
been awesome.
It's WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens jumped off the
Because-
sign last year and lived, so I think
well,
it's fine.
If they hadn't have, well, they didn't do the power slam off. They should have had that be the finish when
Yeah.
Shane fell.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
after Strowman picked him up and did the power slam, it kind of deflated that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
In
Right.
my opinion.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. But it wasn't bad. It was fine. Was what it was. Let's move on to what got a good laugh in our house. We had about 9 people sitting watching the incredible entrance of The Miz and John Morrison.
Yeah.
With all of the bunnies, some of the bunnies missing ears. I think my dad texted me in the middle of that and said it was one of the worst things he's ever watched. But The Miz and John Morrison put over Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, put them over in a big way. And I say a big way because Bad Bunny worked 80% of that match, if not like 90.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of those of like Damian Priest gets in, is beaten up for like 90% of the match, but does 9% of the work, and then Bad Bunny comes in and
The hot tag.
does a hot tag, does
yeah.
a couple moves, and nothing really crazy. But yeah, I mean,
The total opposite.
the total opposite. And you got to give credit to Miz and Morrison and Priest for doing their job with him. But I saw a tweet before we started that Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak were the ones that were training with Bad Bunny in the Performance Center, and so I think that kind of shows through of, he put in the work and effort to do all the big stuff that he did in this match, to where it wasn't just a boring celebrity match, but it was other than Rollins and Cesaro in the main event, it was one of my favorite matches of the night.
It was absolutely, it was great. And what made it great, honestly, is it shows the faith that the WWE has in The Miz and John Morrison to go out there and to not only, so what we're kind of forgetting in this whole thing is making Bad Bunny look good and, putting Bad Bunny over and all that. But Damian Priest is a
Right.
newcomer,
That's what I was about to say.
so they
What
they made Damian Priest as well.
WrestleMania debut for that guy.
Absolutely.
you know?
So kudos to The Miz and John Morrison, man. I mean, WWE has strong faith in those guys. I don't care what opinion anybody has of them.
Yeah, no, I think I've always been high on the Miz, because I think I think he's definitely underrated and one of the best. I don't mind saying it. One of the best on the mic, maybe of all time.
Oh,
One of the best.
he
Yeah.
is definitely up
Um,
there for sure.
And so, and he's definitely a safe worker in the ring. Like, he doesn't do anything crazy, but that's fine because that kind of fits with who he is.
But he sells great.
And he sells great.
He really
and he puts in the work. And so, I definitely agree that the Miz needs to get more respect than what he does get most of the time. And Morrison too,
Comment from Twitch: Miz made Bunny Boy look good. Our house got a kick out of the commentators just calling him Bunny,
Funny.
which was really funny. Bunny funny. Look at that.
The bunny hop move.
The
though.
bunny hop move. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Andy, were you disappointed that Booker T did not get involved in any way?
I was a little disappointed until, which I don't know if we're going to talk about here in a minute, but until Bunny hit the Canadian Destroyer on the outside of the ring.
Oh my
And then
god!
I was like, no, this is fine. He hit because we made a joke earlier when he hit the swinging DDT off the middle
Yeah.
rope. We were like, oh, what if he hits a Panama Sunrise? And then on the outside of the ring, he hits a Canadian
He
Destroyer.
did.
And it was amazing to see that.
And he nailed it. He nailed it really well. Like it was really well done.
I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of disappointed we didn't see a spinneroonie at the end of the match.
Yeah.
With Booker T.
Yeah.
Or like him do his finisher on a bunny.
That
That would have been great. That would have been fantastic.
Oh, that would have been really funny. So, I mean, what a match. It was what it needed to be. It showcased Bad Bunny. It got Damian Priest over. I don't know what's left for Bad Bunny, if anything. I don't know if this was just a short run. Maybe they bring him back for SummerSlam. I don't think they'll keep him on full time, but this was a really cool moment, I think.
Yeah, I think he would like to be on full time, but
Yeah.
I think it was very smart for them to bring him in, a big international star, and make a lot of money. But he impressed too, so
Yep.
everybody at the end of the day kind of wins in this situation.
I definitely think he'll come back at some point.
Yeah,
Yep. 100% he will.
And when he was the 24/7 champ, he went on Saturday Night Live and performed and had the title there.
Yeah.
On display during his performance.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for all the work that he put in, I definitely think he's coming back at some point. Now, whatever that looks like, I don't know.
I could see him and Priest winning the tag titles at some point.
I mean,
Sure.
that's not too far off
Right,
base,
yeah,
honestly. It's
yeah.
it's better than Braun Strowman and Nicholas.
Don't hate on
Way
Nicholas.
better.
Listen, I was in person
Yes,
at that WrestleMania. I can hate on it, all right?
What's amazing to me is that if you look, when Strowman walks by, he walks by like 6 or 7 New Japan pro wrestlers.
Yes, he does.
And just goes straight to the kid.
And No Way Jose.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who else.
He
was in
passed
the crowd.
Okada, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and just walked by him and went to little kid and picked him up.
It was insane. So main event time. The women main eventing night number 1 of WrestleMania. Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. Was this match of the night? Did it beat Cesaro and Rollins?
From a wrestling standpoint, I don't think so. But from a story-wise, and it didn't have the best build up to WrestleMania. But I think the historical implications of it definitely added extra to it, added something to it. And it was I really enjoyed the match and made both of them look super strong. And Bianca really came into her own, I think, in this match, and she's crazy strong and she's super athletic.
Proved
and
it.
She is an overall all around really strong wrestler, and Sasha Banks sold for her, but Sasha Banks had a lot of offense in too, so I think it worked well. So from like a wrestling standpoint, I don't think so, but it was definitely like my second favorite match of the night.
I think you could argue that it was
Yeah.
the match of the night.
I think you can too. Yep.
Not saying that your opinion's wrong or anything. I'm just saying for the aspect of not knowing what Bianca would do and if she'd
Right.
perform on that level, where we kind of already knew Seth and Cesaro could do it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
the only aspect I could see.
Well, and
making that
you I've said this so many times over the last 24 hours that you're probably sick of me saying this, and I said it all night tonight. I just hope they don't try too hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And they didn't.
No,
Nope, they didn't. It all just flowed really well.
I think the only like try hard spot was Bianca carrying Sasha up the steps.
Holy
If that
cow.
didn't work, that would be a botch people would be talking about.
Yep, for
but
sure.
the fact that it worked perfectly, it definitely added to the match. And I think you're right. It definitely wasn't too much, but it kind of reminded me of the Charlotte Sasha Hell in a Cell match, where they could have done a lot of crazy stuff and it would have probably taken away from it.
Yep.
But the fact that they stuck to what they're really good at and improved on it and like amplified it. I think that really made the difference.
No,
Before we keep going, hang on. New World Nerds, this is funny. Bad Bunny has just been inducted in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame after the Canadian Destroyer.
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
He deserves
exactly
it much more
right.
than William Shatner does.
William Shatner's known for like 2 appearances. That's
Sure.
it, I think. But yes, that's 100% right. Go ahead, Jason. I'm
No,
sorry,
I
didn't
was
mean to cut
just-
you off.
That's all good. I was just gonna say there was a moment before that match started that I enjoyed that you all didn't, and that was when Bianca got emotional.
Yeah.
I loved it because as somebody that always dreamt of being in that main event
Mhm.
in that spot, I don't know how you couldn't be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That's-
Absolutely.
That's true. I was, busting their chops about getting emotional. They both did get emotional a little bit there. Sasha was obviously able to compose herself a little quicker because, she's the veteran. But Bianca, I mean, I don't think that was it wasn't a bad thing, obviously.
And you got to think like this time last year, she was still in NXT. And to go from NXT to the main event of WrestleMania in a year is ridiculous. And it's crazy that she's at that
Absolutely.
point, but she proved tonight that she absolutely deserved to be in that spot. And I think that's kind of what you brought up of we didn't really know what to expect from Bianca. We knew she was good in the ring, but there are times when like a really good wrestler on WrestleMania gets kind of lost in the shuffle or kind of gets lost in the spectacle that is WrestleMania.
Right.
And they might be just going through the motions because they rehearsed it so much.
Right. But I think adding the extra emotion that she did at the beginning and at the end definitely added to it. In a positive way.
I apologize to everybody who is watching this right now on Facebook because I just realized that we're not looking at the Facebook comments on our feed right here. So I sincerely apologize. I'm looking at some of the Facebook comments right now. Shout out to the program director of the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, Gus Ramsey. If you are still watching, thank you for tuning in, sir. I appreciate it. Just to jump back to Bad Bunny, what he said, arguably the best celebrity performance in Mania history. I think that's 100% right.
Yep.
Don't know. I can't even think of one that's closer right now. Then I know the other end of the spectrum is Snooki.
Yeah.
We talked about that tonight.
I think the only other one that would
Okay,
be close would be like Lawrence Taylor.
That was-
maybe.
that
Or
was-
Stephen Amell.
that was
But
good. Yeah.
both of those two were not.
That like backflip
Still.
that Snooki did. Come on.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
And he also said, Gus says, Bunny is going to be the 105 live champ. Hashtag eat something. That's fantastic.
That's great. That's
That's so good. Levi, I know you're watching. We're going to get back to your comments in just a second. Even though you were a fan of Bunny by the end of the match. That's really funny. We will get to your other comment in just a second. So, back to the main event. Listen, guys, it was a fantastic match. I think it was match of the night. As far as, like you said, from a storyline perspective, I think it was definitely match of the night. But I really feel like you have to take your hat off to Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
If this does not solidify her as, I'm sorry, I might be the only one in the room that thinks this, but I'm just going to go out and say it. If this doesn't solidify her as the best women's wrestler on the roster right now, I don't know who else is.
Yeah.
She is the best.
I think the only argument would be Charlotte or Asuka. Maybe.
Sure it was.
One of those two. But I do think, the difference between Sasha and Charlotte is Sasha is not as like strong or big as Charlotte is. She's a smaller wrestler who is fantastic at everything. Like
she does it all.
She sells. Like every time she sells, it makes me think that she's hurt. Like, and that's what her job is to do.
Yeah.
Her offense is fluid. So yeah, I definitely think that she is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, women's wrestler today, but of all time too.
I mean, you have to put her up there. I mean, Jason, you and I were watching the Ultimate WrestleMania show that WWE did for YouTube, where they had Sam Roberts and a couple of Ryan Popola and Matt Camp, and I can't remember the girl's name, but doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is they booked Trish Stratus versus Sasha Banks as an Ultimate WrestleMania match.
Right.
And the reason they did that is because that's 2 generations. And they basically said, look, it's the best of that generation versus the best of this
Not
generation.
only that, they originally were going to put the women's title in that match, and they moved it because they said they didn't need it
Right.
to further the point of those two as the generational superstars.
There's not many women wrestlers that are above the championship.
Right.
And I think Trish is one. I think you could put Lita in there.
Yeah, you can.
Now you can.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Sasha is in there. And I mean, a lot of people hate her.
Lana. Just kidding.
I can see Lana there someday.
Yeah, put her right up there with Tamina and Nia Jax.
There you go.
Good
But I could see, like Charlotte could be up there. And I think that's the great thing about WWE women's wrestling today is that there are so many talented women that, Sasha versus Bianca was definitely one of the matches of the weekend, but it could be outdone by Asuka and Rhea on like tomorrow. Sure. And so, I think that's a testament to how strong the women's division is. It doesn't always feel like it.
We're gonna get,
but it's definitely it's definitely stronger than a lot of other places
for sure. I think Asuka and Rhea is still the show tomorrow night. We're gonna get to night number 2 in just a minute. Going back to Bianca Belair, longtime listener of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, Chad Fleener watching, says that he has loved Bianca ever since he saw her on NXT. Jason, I think you're the same way. I know, Andy, you're the same way as well. A lot of people are that way. I'm not saying I didn't love her in NXT. I got to see her in that Fatal 4-Way at NXT TakeOver New York. I wasn't super impressed with her. And I think the reason that I have a hard time with Bianca is because I'm a Sasha Banks fan, and I feel like their gimmick is very, very, very similar. So it makes me feel like I have to choose.
Question. When you saw Bianca, did she fight against Shayna?
It was Bianca, Shayna, Io, and Kyrie. Yeah. Was it Io or was it somebody else?
Io and Kyrie because they faced. I remember.
That's right.
Because they did that face off and everybody wanted to see the two of them.
Yeah.
fight.
So it was those four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that she might have lost her way in that match only because there's so many incredible workers in that match.
My dad, who is watching, thank you for supporting us, Dad. We appreciate it very much. He says, "Woo, Charlotte is the best." No chance. No chance. Charlotte might be the best because she's Rick's daughter, but that doesn't make Nia the best because she's related to The Rock. I'm just saying.
But I do think. Listen, hang on. I think Charlotte is. I think Charlotte is more athletic than Sasha in some ways.
In some ways, yes. Yes. I agree.
And I think overall, Charlotte is
as a package,
the full package.
Yep.
Because Sasha's good on the mic. She struggles on the mic sometimes. She is botchy at times, but every wrestler is. So you kind of can look past that.
Yep.
So I definitely think they're like 1A, 1B. Like it depends on the match. They kind of pass each other every once in a while.
Right.
Of how of who's the best right now.
I agree with that. Yep, I totally agree with that. Okay, guys. The other comment that Levi made before we move on from night number 1 and we kind of preview a little bit of night number 2 here. Levi saying that how awesome was it to see the OG NWO tonight. We did get to see the 2020 class of the Hall of Fame. I assume we'll see 2021 tomorrow night. But Hogan, X-Pac, Hall, and Nash, along with the Bella Twins, along with the British Bulldog, along with
JBL,
my personal favorite, JBL. You mentioned William Shatner earlier. Am I forgetting anybody? Jushin Thunder Liger. That's the other one. That's right. Yes, it was awesome to see the original NWO right there. That's right. Too sweet. That was great to see them out there to finally get their just due into the Hall of Fame as a group. Many people complained about Bischoff not being in with them, but Bischoff goes in as a solo for 2021. Let's talk about that for just a second, because Jason, you and I were big WCW guys, obviously growing up. And I think the reason they inducted Bischoff separately is because the weight of his contributions go far past just the NWO. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. But I did read that last year he was going to be a surprise entrant into the Hall of Fame. They were going to surprise him and get him on stage with the NWO.
Oh,
he wasn't going to know about it.
That makes sense.
Oh, that
would have been a cool move.
That would have been cool. Really cool. That's really interesting. All right, let's move on to night number 2. The first thing that I'm going to ask you guys is, does KO jump off the ship tomorrow night?
Absolutely, he does. Absolutely, he does.
I mean, he might. I don't know how.
Every time I see the ship, though, it makes me miss Kairi Sane, because she should have been there last year for Mania, and like she should have been the one that's on the ship, because that was her whole gimmick. But no, I think it's like a 99.99999% chance KO jumps off.
Especially because they created their own ship.
Right.
Like they don't have to fight up through the fans to get there.
Right.
They created their own ship.
That's a good point.
And he can get up there and just, whatever.
I hope they shoot him out of a cannon.
Wouldn't that be cool? All right. So we got KO jumping off the ship. Dad commented and says, does Becky Lynch show up tomorrow night? I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I think there's a good chance.
Well, I thought about this. After the Rhea Asuka match, she could have a stare down with whoever wins, because she had to relinquish her title.
Especially if it's Asuka.
Right.
Yeah. I can see that.
That was the match.
I do think she's like the most obvious choice, but the only reason why I don't think she might is because she kind of teased on Instagram or whatever that she could possibly show up, and I think that they would want her.
That, they don't do that.
Right.
Well, you can leave it for Raw.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is her for Raw, but I do think that you could see, like, after the match, you could have Ronda, because the rumor right now is Ronda's supposed to come back some point this year.
Right.
And so I think it would be kind of cool if Asuka won, or even if Rhea won, and Ronda came out to confront the one, like the both of them. I think that would be kind of cool to see.
Right. I think that would be very cool. So we just made those predictions. You've got The Fiend and Randy Orton. You've got Edge, Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan. Let's talk about that match for just a minute. There we go. Sorry if we're losing y'all. New World Nerd says Becky comes out Raw after Mania. The only argument that I have about Raw after Mania and Becky is that she is on, that would put her on opposite shows of Seth, and they're not going to do that.
But
I don't think it matters right now. Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal.
Right, that's true. I guess right now that doesn't matter.
I think to me the only argument would be the fact that there may not be fans at the Raw after Mania,
and there won't be.
And so I think if you want to have a big surprise, you want to get that crowd pop. That's like a genuine pop, and I think that could see that too.
So that's it. That's how Becky gets there. Maybe tomorrow night. Okay. So again, you've got Miz. No, not Miz. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I looked down at my notes.
We had a rain delay before this.
That's good. Okay, so we got The Fiend and Randy Orton. We've got Edge, Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan. Let's talk about that main event, because as we talked about earlier tonight, this main event has so much weight to it, for the fact that 10 years ago to the day tomorrow night, Edge had to announce his retirement. Daniel Bryan was forced to retire early, came back. Roman Reigns was forced out due to leukemia, came back. Now these three are in the main event of WrestleMania. I cannot remember a main event that has this much weight and is this big. I can't, in at least a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, the only one I can really remember that maybe I don't think this is at like the hype level of it, that was like Cena Rock. Maybe
that's the one I was thinking of.
And I don't think this is like at that level, because that was supposed to be a once in a lifetime. We got it twice in a lifetime, but that's a different thing. But I do think like this is a match that you could put all three guys on a dartboard and throw it, and you have a good chance of picking who's going to win.
That's
because
the
it's
best
so
part of this build.
Yeah,
is that
it's unpredictable.
You honestly don't know what's going to happen.
And I think that's what makes this match so good, is you legit do not know. Like we were talking about earlier, there are so many different avenues you can go with each guy winning the title.
Well, I think Andy said this before WrestleMania started, but he said, I watched all three promos on SmackDown, and I want all three to win.
Yeah, like this is the first WrestleMania main event that I can remember in a long time where I would be happy if any one of the three won.
Absolutely.
And like that's a good feeling to have. And I think that's the only, because to be honest, before WrestleMania started, like this was one of the most underwhelming WrestleMania cards, I think, to me personally, that I can remember in a long time.
Well, you don't have a lot of part-timers.
Right. And I think that's a good thing, because you're starting to see guys like Cesaro and Bianca and Damian Priest and Tomorrow night, tomorrow night we're going to see a lot of other guys, and so I think that kind of adds to it. But this is like one of the matches that I think could go down as one of the greatest triple threat one of the greatest triple threat matches of all time.
Yep.
Like on, I may be like the new guy here, but that's fine. On like Rollins, Lesnar, Cena level at Rumble a few years ago, level of triple threat, fantastic triple threat that takes everything away.
Yep, that's one of both of our favorite matches, actually. All right, I know that you said you want all three guys to win, but you got to pick one. Who wins?
I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to go Roman.
I am too,
because I think it just
across the board.
Yeah,
across the board. Yeah. Roman Reigns wins. I just don't think it's time for him to give the title up.
I think the only reason, which is weird to say this, I think the only reason Daniel Bryan might be in there is to take the pin.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I said that from the get-go. I think it's 75% Roman wins. I think 25% Edge wins. And like we were talking about earlier, if that happens, he drops it to Roman like
Brian has 0% chance.
Brian, he might have 5%.
Now, the only reason why,
and that's why he's going to win, because he has like 5% chance.
A little higher. It would be interesting to me to watch the two heels go after Brian at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That would be the only thing that would be like, oh.
Well, that awesome. And Vince is watching those prop bets on DraftKings, and
I'm telling you, man, we gave that man more power than he needs.
I know,
even more power than he needs,
right.
And that's not good for anybody.
I know, but regardless, like we have sit here and said, whoever wins this main event is going to be absolutely incredible.
I made this point when Vince was talking. Who was in the front row?
Yeah,
Roman Reigns.
Right,
all three of his favorite children:
Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Roman Reigns.
Yep,
his four favorite kids.
Front center.
That's what it feels like. Yeah,
so that's the guy.
It says a lot right there.
But like the thing is, like they showed Roman like forefront, and then they kind of showed Edge a little bit. They kind of showed Daniel Bryan, but they showed Roman Reigns like a good majority of it.
And everybody else was in their gear
except for him,
and he was wearing a suit.
Yep. And he was looking good in the suit too. I'm telling you, man.
Man, looking sharp. All right, so that's our predictions for the main event. What other bold predictions do you guys have for tomorrow night? Jason, I'll start with you. What do you got for tomorrow night? We talked about Kevin Owens already. What else do you got?
Run me through who's going to be in the 2021.
So Hall of Fame class 2021. We got Eric Bischoff. We've got Molly Holly. We have Kane. We have Great Khali. We have RVD.
Yes.
We have I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I think that's who I'm forgetting. I don't remember.
If anybody listening knows,
help us out here.
Yeah, help us out.
I don't remember. Maybe there's not one.
I'm hoping that the backstage little segments are a little better. I thought.
Oh Lord, tonight they had the one with Bailey and the NWO. Like, what was going on with that?
I have no idea. And then we didn't mention this before, but when Titus and Hogan came out, Hogan got
that
booed.
was rough. Yeah, and that was just
And I think he was booed because he kind of fumbled over his words, and just because of his history.
Yeah,
because it's Hogan, he fumbles over his words. All right, bold prediction for tomorrow night. What you got? What did you think?
My bold prediction is that Sammy and KO steal the show.
I could not agree more with that.
I don't know all about Logan Paul. I'm sorry, that's new to me. That might
you don't
ruin
miss much.
My bold statement, but I don't know. That's where I'm going.
I think they steal the show too. What you got?
Other than the Fiend catching probably putting Randy Orton on fire multiple times.
It probably happens.
I could see them. I know he just got into the Hall of Fame, and I think this would be a good place to set it up. I could see them setting up like the Fiend versus Kane.
Yeah,
at some point,
because
I could see Kane out there, like accepting the Hall of Fame, and all of a sudden the lights start to go out like they do.
Yeah,
because it's the first time that the Fiend's going to be seen in a long time in front of an audience as well, and so I think that unpredictability of him just kind of showing up and attacking Kane after his match with Randy, I think that would be kind of cool.
That's very interesting. Let's see. My bold prediction, I alluded to it earlier. I think Rhea Ripley beats Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. And I don't necessarily think that's a bold prediction because I think it's very likely. But this is Rhea's first official match on the main roster. So in theory, it would be an upset, question mark.
Let me ask you this. Would you put that match first?
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
a perfect match.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
either that or the Kevin Owens Sami
Yep,
Zayn
me too.
match.
Yep,
I think
one-
those,
Not
those are the two. And I think this could be like WWE's version of 50-50 booking with Rhea after she lost to Charlotte last year.
Yep.
Of her
True.
coming out and being Asuka this year.
Yep.
Kind of adding to that.
Yep. One more question for you guys about night number 2. What the heck is a Nigerian drum fight?
I think it's just a street fight with drums
Someone
outside
said
the
it
ring.
was like a no holds barred match.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just going to have drums all outside the ring.
Interesting.
Probably.
Well, we're gonna throw
Well, okay,
somebody through a big
Maybe
drum.
it'll be the people that did the entrance for Sting.
Oh.
And they're gonna be drumming
The whole
during
time?
Yeah.
That would be.
It would be
Those
like an
instants.
Inferno match, but every time a big move's hit, they hit like they do a drum roll or something.
Oh my gosh. Listen, before we go off the rails too far, we better sign off. Thank you all for joining us on this live edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night directly after WrestleMania, because guess what? We'll be back again. For Andy York, for Jason Batkiewicz, my name is Chris Belcher. Make sure you follow the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast all over social media. We are at PBW Podcast. Buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/PBW Podcast. Again, my name is Chris Belcher. This is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys tomorrow night.